Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Mass One, Middlecon, and RMC. Gentlemen, match of the day is upon us. We have V3 Esports facing off against Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming. The 0-6 matchup that no one would have predicted because, gentlemen, who predicted the HAWKS going 0-6?
Not me. I think I had them number 1 in my power rankings coming in the off season. So
at number 2 in my power rankings. It's been a split to forget so far for Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. I mean, this is a matchup where what was interesting is just before we were coming in, we were discussing how kind of like these two teams in a power level sense just aren't matched. Like when you look at their hands and you look at their individual skill level, one of these teams is far and away more talented and has proven talent than the other one. But they're both on the same record. So RMC, what are we gonna see? And which of these teams am I alluding to is which? Because I'm not gonna say which is which.
You know what? I will, because like I said, I had HAWKS as number 1. And so when I see the SoftBank HAWKS at this level, I'm like, what on earth happened here? This should not be where they are. And even till this day, even in their last match on Wednesday there, when they played up against Sengoku, they didn't look bad. And for most of the early game, they made 1 or 2 bad decisions and the game's over. And that feels like the story of the HAWKS. They're strong mechanically. They look like a good team until they don't, and then they make that one big mistake and the game's over. And then I look over at V3, and when I see V3,
no, you don't get to take V3 because those catastrophic mistakes that the HAWKS keep doing is what allows them to keep losing those games. Middlecon, V3 Esports, on the other hand, though, I think they just have the world record pace for trying to end games in the LJL, just not in the right way, though.
So that's harsh. So this is actually the thing. One of the great things about V3 Esports is they never get to that point in the mid game where they make the catastrophic mistake, because they're so far behind after the early game that they're not in a position to make that catastrophic mistake. The damage has already been done. The Titanic sank before it even left port in this scenario. And it's kind of just been a laner diff across the board, which is honestly kind of disappointing when this team was doing so well in Academy. That hasn't really translated over to the LJL is disappointing.
All right. I can see you want to say more, but I'm gonna actually do something a bit different. I don't normally do predictions on the desk, gentlemen, because why would I do that? But if we could have the players come onto our screen for a moment so we can run through those rosters. So what you got? Washide, Unica, the Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming. We have Kinatsu, Blank, Dasha, Marble, and Rainer. Obviously, we've already mentioned one of these teams has hands and the other one is still learning how to utilize them perfectly. Gentlemen, coming to you, RMC, first. Who's going to win this one and why?
Oh, man. I really want to praise V3. I think it's not fair to bash on V3 here, but I had HAWKS as number 1. So I've been copium on HAWKS, man. I've been predicting HAWKS wins left and right. And it would be churlish of me now to not vote for the HAWKS winning this one.
What about you, though, Middlecon?
I kind of find myself falling into the same boat as RMC. I'd love to make a crazy call here, a ridiculous call, but I kind of don't want it to come back to bite me. So it's got to be the HAWKS. The lane diff is too big, in my opinion, and V3, they haven't looked like a coordinated team, and that's probably the best way to beat the HAWKS.
It absolutely is. Yeah, there we go. There we go. No, I never want the Japanese casters. It's my face on your faces. I am so much of a totalitarian. You know this, Middlecon. It can only be my face or your face or RMC's face.
Okay. I'm all right. I thought you were getting
face.
Turning into a little bit of a diva there, but if we could sharing the love, I'm all right with that one.
So we've got I believe, if I'm recounting after I went on just like an absolute rage there, it's both of you going HAWKS. correctly. I can't. Yes, you
Yes, Hawks, good.
Gentlemen,
Play League of
it is
Legends.
pick and ban face, but I was just going to laugh momentarily just to fill for time for no reason whatsoever.
Wonderful.
Gentlemen, pick and ban phase is upon us. Please take it away.
Let's go. RMC, let's get into this one. One of these teams, by the end of this game, will have a win, and it all starts off in Champion Select. Mid lane, apparently the focus for both of these sides.
Yeah, and to me, if V3 is targeting the mid lane for Hawks, that makes sense. Dasher has been the best performing player on that team by far. But for the Hawks to target V3's mid lane, I mean, Hugo has played well, but I don't know if you necessarily need to pinch out that particular champion pool.
Is a strange one. I would agree with you to that extent. But V3 really haven't found an identity so far. And as one of the more experienced players on the rosters, I feel like EUGO is possibly a place that it can come from. Wow, a third mid lane ban with that Victor taken off the table, directed at Dasher. Yeah. They know the team that they're playing against. They know how powerful he can be.
Yeah, and interestingly, of course, the one ban that isn't a mid laner is going to be Zeri, coming through from the side of the Hawks here. And I've got to admit, I'm a little bit disappointed because the Hawks have first pick, and Marble actually had, to me at least, one of his best games on that Zeri against Sengoku there. So I was hoping that they would pick that one themselves.
But instead, opting towards this Jin Zhao has been a bit of an evergreen jungler. Blank's going to be happy to pick that one up. And V3 responding with a Tryndamere and the Aphelios lock-in with the Jinx still on the table.
Now, I don't know if, I was going to say, Marble actually plays the Jinx, because Marble did not play it at all last year and has not played it yet this year, but it will be picked up here. And Marble going to try out a new champion on his former team as well. We have to keep in mind V3 Academy tended to play around Marble, and this is the same Academy team that now is playing in the LJL against their former main carry.
Ooh, I love this lock-in though for Unica. We started to see Volibear as a jungler has been rising in priority, especially as a matchup into this Jin Zhao.
Yeah, Volibear, strong early jungler, can hold his own in the duels against Jin Zhao as well, and that's why we're seeing that one come through here. But for the side of Hawks, they've got the Gwen as well as insurance, for later on. Volibear will fall off, Gwen will skill up, and actually might be able to match that Tryndamere. Actually, no. Gwen won't be able to match the Tryndamere later, but outside of the Tryndamere, I'm sure the Gwen will have a lot of impact in this game.
As we are now getting into the second phase of bans, both teams to pick up a mid laner and a support. Obviously, that Tryndamere can be flexed a little bit around. The Gwen too, to a certain extent. V3, again, just hammering home on these mid lane bans with the Orianna and the Sylas. Dasher is going to have to dig pretty deep into his champion pool to pull out something here.
To be fair, Dasher has a deep enough champion pool. There's still the Corki, the Vex that he's played this split. Ari as well is on the table. And last split, there were even more champions, Aatrox, Lissandra. And honestly, Lissandra into Tryndamere is not a bad matchup by any means. It's actually a pretty good answer into the Undying Rage. You just lock him into a Frozen Tomb, and then, by the time he comes out, he's not as invincible. But V3 get to pick first. And we didn't see the support pool pinch too much. It was only the Tahm Kench. And frankly, I've said this multiple times. I will continue saying this. I do think Thresh is the better partner for Aphelios anyways.
And Hetel is going to be happy to pick that one up. This is an enduring duo in that bot side. A lot of safety for the Aphelios and a little bit of pick potential as well. How are Hawks going to look to respond, though, is going to be that Leona locked in. We've started to see Jinx Leona as a duo rising in priority to a certain extent. I think the idea is that it's just so easy to get that first kill, get excited with the Leona lockdown, that then the Jinx can really take over these fights.
Yeah, and it's a lot about in lane as well, the pressure that you have, chaining that Zenith Blade and stun into the choppers. Okay, well, we said he had to dig deep. Dasher dug real deep here. Azir, not a champion he played last split either, hasn't played this split. And frankly, I'm not sure where Azir is competitively right now. It used to be that when you had to blind a mid laner, you went with Orianna, you went with Zoe, you went with Azir here. But Azir has fallen off. It's no longer the sort of auto attack style champion. You use him mostly for poke. And the fact that it got picked up and V3 have just kind of gone with Syndra tells me that I don't think V3 were expecting the Azir either. They just kind of defaulted to, let's just go with something generically strong because we don't have a ready counter to this Azir.
And it appears to have thrown a bit of spanner into the works. Obviously, both these teams still looking for their first win. HAWKS, I felt they've drafted a lot of scaling. Jinx, Azir, Gwen, all champions that need a little bit of time, RMC.
Yeah, Azir as well does scale up quite nicely, though I think now his power spike is closer to the mid game after he gets the mythic, the poke as well. I like what the HAWKS have drafted, but I usually do. I think the HAWKS in general just have a very strong understanding of what it is that they need to do. V3's composition concerns me a little bit more. I've been vocal about the fact that I don't think Aphelios is a great answer. In lane as well, Thresh counters Leona's engage, but doesn't offer a lot of strong engage of his own to set up that Aphelios into trying to punish that Jinx. Maybe you can try and punish the Leona. The mid lane matchup as well, the Syndra just feels a bit like a throwaway, like, okay, you know what? We didn't necessarily we didn't know how to handle the Azir. We're just going to go Syndra, Volibear, look for a kill lane that way. And honestly, it doesn't work particularly well into the Azir either because he does have the Emperor's Divide and he can just dash away. The top lane is where I'm looking at here. Washida's Tryndamere, because I do think that is the hardest counter they have. Tryndamere will be able to answer Gwen later on in the game, the Undying Rage, the ability to just get on her and win those trades. I think V3 have to look to that top lane and look for that split push to be their win con.
Well, we know the win conditions, and we are going to be jumping on to the Rift for the Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming against V3 Esports. By the end of this one, a Nexus will fall, and one of these teams will finally have a win right at the end of the first round robin. And neither of them will want to be the team dropping down to 0-7. RMC, once again, we're having a little bit more of a tepid level 1, despite the engage tools that both these teams do have to a certain extent. HAWKS getting some vision into V3's jungle, trying to scout out where Unica is starting.
Yeah, I would argue, though, that I think V3 has taken better advantage of the tepid level 1, as you described them, because Hetzel dropped the ward and base to switch to sweeper, and that's why V3 doesn't want to fight, because they didn't have enough people there to win that. It would have been a 4v, however many people HAWKS had, and that bush control is often a very critical part of the early levels. When your lanes are fairly even, whoever can get that sort of first jump, first bit of damage, can often take control of the first 5 waves.
So RMC, I want to pick your brain a little bit here, because we're seeing top side buff starts from both of these junglers, and this is something that I've been seeing more and more in competitive play over the past couple of weeks. You do pretty much a full clear down towards your bot side, ready to gank. Is this a path that you feel like has come about due to the strength of AD carries in this current meta?
Partially, and I think it's also what we see a lot in the top lane. Unless your top laner is named Ray Farkey right now in the LJL, most of the lanes don't have a top laner who can just dominate right away. In fact, they've been picking a lot of scaling or Hullbreaker champions. So not really a big deal ganking that lane early. You might as well path for the bot side, which oftentimes can be more volatile, especially when we're seeing these sort of engage support come through here. So I think that's largely why we're seeing this sort of top pathing. Now, I would like to actually see some early cheese into the mid lane. I do think, especially for the side of V3 here, if you can set Dasher behind, even if you don't outright kill him, if you burn the flash, it does set up for a very nice level 6.
It also means that Dasher can't get those Flash Emperor's Divide plays off, which set up very nicely with the jungler like Xinjiao, who wants to get into that lane and gank as well. Yujo has a lot of damage in the early game, a lot of setup too. So yeah, I think pressuring into the mid lane is what we want to see. Kanatsu just pushing fairly aggressively into Washidai in this top side, as Marble and Lina are doing the same thing in bot lane. Will be forced slightly away though, and despite these pushing lanes, because of the resets that are going to come through, Unica might have an angle onto this Scuttle Crab despite Blank getting there first.
Yeah, Reyna actually didn't recall here, so is sticking around, trying to back up, but yeah, they've decided to completely disengage from this. And you don't have to fight for the Scuttle. The Scuttle honestly isn't worth that much gold anymore. Yep. It's just vision control, right? And Blank can just say, okay, I'm not going to gank bot anytime soon. I'll go gank mid. I'll go gank top. In the early game, Gwen can trade well into the Tryndamere. Tryndamere shouldn't lose that matchup. You lose control of the lane, but you shouldn't die unless the jungle decides to pay a visit.
Might do. Blank actually just choosing to take a reset. Dasher going to be doing the same. But with that wave not fully resetting, I think he wants to stick around just a little bit longer.
Yeah, that wave is definitely not resetting for Dasher.
It's in a bad place. It's in a bad place.
He's pushed it really oddly, and that Sand Soldier was still pushing. If anything, he's lucky that Unica didn't actually decide to try and stick around, punish from behind. Did have an interesting track to do that, and a very passive early game, a very respectful early game from both teams here. All the lanes don't want to over push, and you're seeing that anytime they're pushing out right now, they're dropping wards or they're just resetting to let the lanes themselves kind of reset as well.
Well, you were talking about in Champion Select how this Trinamir from Washidai will be able to contest the Gwen as we get later into the game. At the moment, not doing too well. This is a pretty sizable CS advantage that Kinatsu has built up for himself, and with the exhaust could potentially look for a dive considering how low Washidai is, although it would be very risky.
Yeah, so the problem with the dive on the Tryndamere, and the reason why it's kind of risky, is because Tryndamere has heals and he can still crit. So there's always that sort of RNG chance, and the question is, do you feel lucky on that particular dive? I think Kinatsu is also trying to wait for that 6, and I think if we do see a solo dive come through, it will be when Kinatsu hits that 6, has that needle work, and has that small window of opportunity to try and burst down Washidai. And because Kinatsu has just does have to teleport, which Kinatsu has it, which Washidai doesn't, it guarantees pretty much that the Gwen has that little bit of an edge, and Washidai has to play a little bit carefully around that level 6.
And I don't want to harp along on this top lane too much, but we have seen an interesting first back here from Kinatsu. The Warden's Mail, which the observers briefly highlighted. This feels like a tech directly into the Tryndamere, try and reduce some of that damage. Liner now being caught up in the mid side, flash stunned, and there is no hope for the Leona. First blood for Yu-Gi-Oh!
Well, Middlecott, we were saying that V3 is struggling their lanes. I like this adaptation. If you struggle in your lanes, simply just don't lane. Never mind.
Oh dear, Yu-Gi-Oh! Forced to burn the flash and take it away. Get your first blood, but taken down in the mid.
Just can't praise a team as a caster,
can
you?
You're not allowed to.
Cursing them. Yeah, apparently not, because just as I praised them, Yu-Gi-Oh! Just not kind of paying attention a little bit there. You could have flashed a little bit sooner. You could have flashed away, and the rest of V3 as well. They were in the area. They were on the bottom side. If you had just flashed downwards to the rest of your team, Unica could have come up to reinforce, but oh well. It's a 1-for-1, and it's a trade a little bit. The jungle, Blank getting that one for Ahugo, getting that fairly even once again. And to me, okay, fine. V3, you kind of gave that one up a little bit, but if you can continue making these proactive plays, I'm happy to forgive that.
I do want to say, though, I think it's pretty key that Dasher held onto his flash when he was making that play. So if Blank wants to go for a wraparound, it would be a possibility. Speaking of wraparounds there, Unica potentially looking for one on Tiganato, but no level 6, no Stormbringer on the Volley Bear. And honestly, just ends up being wasted time for both teams to a certain extent. Yeah,
it was pinged out that, hey, Yu-Gi-Oh's left lane here. Be careful, top. And the dive wasn't quite set up right, unfortunately. Yu-Gi-Oh was a little bit late to that, but they are going to try and punish with the blue buff a little bit, and Blank didn't know. Okay, Blank's behind now. Not what you wanted to have when you're the Xinjiao. You are an early game jungler, and granted, Volibear is early game as well. But I think the meat shield that Volibear is, combined with that Stormbringer, will just have more utility come mid-game.
He's just a pretty big boy. Pretty large lad. We've not talked about this bot lane, actually, which a little bit surprising considering that obviously we've got Marble versus his former team in many aspects, and it's not going too well for him. Dresscode and Hetel have engineered a pretty decent CS lead for themselves so far.
Not gonna lie, Middlecott, I don't think we're gonna be talking about bot anytime soon.
It's just not. I'm trying to pivot the conversation over there. Be a good little play-by-play. Make sure that everyone gets their airtime. But yeah, it's not where the action's been happening. It's been all around the mid lane. Blank walks over a control ward. We'll spot that one out as Unica and Hetel now aggressing on towards the Drake. Liner, though, going to get caught out in the jungle.
Not again.
No aftershock for this Leona, but does dodge away from the death sentence. No blast cone, no hope, and that one goes over to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay, can I just point out that Lina used to be V3, like the main team support, and Hetel was the understudy in the academy team, but right now Hetel making Lina look not so good there. I love the flash over to pop the blast cone as well to secure and make sure that Lina doesn't have anywhere to go. But because they saw Unica bot, Blank is making good on that and taking topside Herald. V3 have not started up this Dragon yet, and granted, the plates are good. 2 plates for a Herald, that's roughly the equation there. But you could have gone 2 plates and Dragon and still can do that.
There is a potential angle. Dasher going to get forced back, but flashes back in and throws away at Yu-Gi-Oh! Every time this man gets a kill, it seems to get turned around on him.
Yeah, and again, I just want to point out, you saw the Azir. You counter-picked the Azir with the Syndra here, and this is why I was kind of just like, really? Is this your answer? It's really not working out. Dasher getting a lead, and keep in mind too, we've said before that Azir, sure, not as big in a carry as he used to be in the late game, but can still do a lot.
Ashidai being jumped onto by Kinatsu, still holding the Undying Rage, which is
Blank.
going to be very important in a few seconds as Blank has turned up to the top side. V3's top laner will just back away temporarily, but with the support of Unica in tow, may look to actually aggress onto this one. Rift Herald will take out this top lane tower, but how many kills was Sengoku have to lose for it? Blank already going to get taken down right at the onset as Washidai heals up and just spinning slashes away. A double kill for Unica, and the turret doesn't even go down. That's a big win for V3.
And give Washidai an Oscar, man. The way he was baiting as well. Usually you see the Tryndamere come in and you're like, okay, there must be backup. But the way Washidai was hesitating to engage as well, that's all faked. I mean, the ult was up and ready. They were just waiting for Unica and Yu-Gi-Oh! To get in position. Oh, great. We get a replay of the award winning play. So first of all, Washidai is not actually at risk of really dying here. Worst comes to worst, you pop the ult and you walk away. Looked like it, but keep in mind, he didn't even burn the heal, right? Or he burned the heal at the very end there. Yeah. So he still had the ult available. And then this is the part. Look at how hesitant he's pretending to be there. And then only when they fully committed, only when Unico is in the area, then they go, okay, we pull the trigger. And the moment the mocking shout goes out, you can almost see that Blank goes, ah, crap. Like, I ain't getting out. Didn't even bother flashing for it.
You know, I love that. I love that in solo queue. Like, you'll be playing against someone. It's like, are they being stupid, or do they know something that I don't? And yeah, I mean, Oscar-worthy performance from Washidai there, grabbing a couple of assists for himself. Still, I think, behind in the lane in terms of that pure 1v1. But when you got your boys to help you out, it's going to feel a lot better. Blank and Kinatsu returning to the scene of the crime will take out the first tower of the game. But V3 trading for the Infernal at least.
Yeah, and V3 actually not looking too bad. They are down in gold still. And a lot of it, of course, from that top side and the mid lane, where they are bleeding out in their lanes. But other than that, V3 are putting up a much better fight than honestly I expected for them in the early game here. And if they can keep this up, the mid game has traditionally been where the Hawks have been struggling, the decision making. And I'm not seeing that weakness for V3 right now. The decision making has been on point. It's all been about the mechanics. And if they can continue to pull the trigger first, continue to have a numbers advantage, I'm not too worried about mechanics.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Eventually, you do get to a point where you can put yourselves in such an advantageous position that mechanics don't really matter because there's nothing that the Hawks can do. Still anyone's game at this point. You have to feel 12 minutes in. Neither team has got a major lead. There are a couple of individual members on each side that are particularly strong. I think Unica and Yu-Gi-Oh! Really embodying that at the moment. But Dasher and Blank definitely not looking non-threatening either.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't even put Eiguo up there because I think Dasher is more threatening right now in that 1v1. Eiguo has been threatening with the rotations, with the map movements here. And I think a lot of that is coming off of Unica. But I'm still keeping my eye on Washidai for now. That huge CS discrepancy we saw has been somewhat nullified. And it is a longer lane now. I don't know if Kinatsu will continue to stay in there or start roaming. So there's an opportunity for this Tryndamere to slowly start coming online.
There's potentially an opportunity here in the mid lane as well. It seems to be the place for B. Five people moving around there and want to punish the Syndra, but doesn't look particularly likely, RMC.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Hetzel moving up has dissuaded most of them from wanting to do that. And we're seeing a bit of a vision war. Hetzel clearing everything in the river all the way up, and then Raina just resetting everything all the way down here. There's no dragon, so it's really just about giving the lanes a bit of space, isolation, making sure that Hetzel doesn't get to roam up, and instead you get locked down there with Marble and Dress Code once again, and this bot lane where nothing is happening whatsoever continues to just be their own little, island, as it were.
We could potentially see something. Gale Force has now been completed for dress code, and we've seen, I think Utapon was a clear example of using that aggressively to secure engages, to secure fights that are going to go in your favor, and secure kills as well. Yuji taking a fair bit of damage from the Leandri Zazir in the mid lane, level 11 for Dasher as well. This Zazir has crested the mid game, the early game very, very nicely, and 30 CS up, 1-1. That Mythic complete is starting to get to a pretty scary point already.
Yeah, once the Leandri completes, that's when it starts to come online. The poke is really, really nasty as well. But bot side, Dresscode has taken this turret.
And Unica is looking to take out Marble, cleanses away very nicely, but the Solar Flare combined with the stun, there's just not enough damage to take out the Hawks AD carry. But 2 summoners burnt on the Jinx means that play in a couple minutes time gets yourself a kill.
Yeah, it was the most quiet lane here, middle court. We didn't see a lot of kills, but quietly Dresscode was taking that turret, punishing away, and it says a lot too that Dresscode and Hetzel are winning that lane against Marble and Reina, because we've already touched on Reina and Hetzel and the fact that, hey, this was the main team support versus Academy support, but Marble too, right? He was the player that V3 Academy played for. Dresscode coming in after a year off, and we don't have a lot of data on him. We were wondering, hey, is Dresscode sort of a stopgap measure because of Marble leaving and them not expecting it? But it doesn't look like it. Dresscode won that 2v2.
Yeah, been performing admirably and has got himself a small but definitely meaningful advantage thus far. Blank grabbing that Herald. Mid lane tower is looking pretty low. If Shirley headbutts that one, it's going to go down in just a second time. Dresscode, though, still standing up, still looking to defend this, and Blank not summoning the Herald yet. Maybe Hawks are saving it for this Drake, which is spawning in just under a minute's time.
Yeah, there's absolutely no rush to drop it. In fact, they could even look to drop it top with Dasher here, right? Take that top side turret, because it's actually worth more now that we're past the 14-minute marks. Side inner turrets have that extra gold. And granted, you know, cracking mid opens up a lot of control on the map. But if you're going to play towards the bot side of the map and the dragon, threatening inhibitor is so much more impactful.
Hawks need to be careful. Blank a little bit in no man's land here. Dasher has just abandoned him
Dasher?
for the waves. Doesn't want to get involved with that. It's just a single kill, but it's still that turret gold going over to the Azir, like we talked about. That's going to be oh so important, but it does mean that Hawks are a man down when it comes to this potential Drake fight.
It's not just the man down, middle court. That's your jungler. That was your smite control.
Going forward, lands the Moonlight Vigil, forces Liner to flash away as well. That is what we were talking about. Aggressive plays with the Gale Force, what the Aphelios can offer. And now, if it wasn't already secured, V3 can just walk into this pit, to this river, take down the Drake, grab their second one, and accelerate themselves towards a potential soul.
I'm sorry, I gotta go back. That's your jungler.
You
Black
need
going
him.
down.
He needs
exactly. And Dasher had the Emperor's Divide. Like, just go back and bail him out. Just drop an Emperor's Divide for him. Oh my goodness, it's just brutal watching that, and I feel like that's symptomatic of what has plagued the Hawks here. The team's not trusting each other. The team's not playing together. It feels like Dasher's just kind of gone, you know what? I don't really trust my team anymore. I'm just going to try and solo carry this, and the way I do that is by not dying. Maybe it's the right call. I mean, Dasher has put up the best numbers so far, but it's not what you'd like to see as a fan of the Hawks.
I'll play devil's advocate for Dasher. I think the more time that he's got on the map, the more time that he can spend farming and getting towards these items, it is fundamentally good for the Hawks, as Hetzel has perhaps overstayed his welcome here. Will throw up the box, the wind becomes lightning, and the final hit from Dasher secures his second kill of the game. And this is what we're talking about, continuing to get gold, continuing to get resources onto this Azir. Maybe he is playing a bit greedy at points, but if Hawks can pick up their first win, I'm sure they're not going to be complaining.
If they can pick up the first win. I hate that we're even saying if here. I
know, it's so painful.
Yeah, but they are down kills, and granted, kills aren't everything. The gold is still in favor of the Hawks here. Their mechanics are still shining through. They still have a lot to leverage here, and Marble is scaling up as well. It's just, this is a little bit worrying to see the Hawks win like this. We wanted to see a definitive win. The Hawks have the longest game time of any team, but it's all been in losses. I'd like to see a fast win.
Another Moonlight Vigil, but the death sentence not quite there from Hetzel. Really, targets are genuinely pretty easy to to hook down. They're not coming through in the end there. We're getting a bit of a J-Ram at the moment, RMC, and there's not really anything that both these teams can look at so far.
Theoretically, at this point in the game, if the two teams J-Ram here, Hawks should win. They've got the better poke with Dasher here, but it just doesn't look like they want to sit there and actually push this. They don't want the risk of Syndra being able to burst one of them down. And we're getting to see, the split push happening, Washidai versus Kanatsu. And for now, Kanatsu's still doing pretty well into the Tryndamere junglers.
Yeah, Unica, a little bit not sure whether he wants to go in or wants to go out. Committed the ultimate will result in Washidai going down, and it's another one for Kanatsu. Yugio's going to have to run himself out of there. V3 majorly dropping the ball.
Yeah, and huge props to that rocket as well, because Washidai did not see the rocket incoming, had ultimate, didn't press R because he was not expecting the explosion to just come out. And I think it actually ran through the wall as well. So very, very little warning time. And now that might be what the Hawks need to break this game open. They've been struggling to really find anything after they took that top side. The push has not been great, but with a man down, V3 can't defend any of their turrets mid or bot.
And this is a big influx of gold for the Hawks. They were marginally ahead just a couple of minutes ago, but I think that's well and truly got to a significant advantage. 4,000 gold at 20 minutes. Definitely nothing to complain about. We've got a second item completed onto Dasher as well. As what have we got here? V3 trying to make plays on the bottom side of the map, but it really doesn't work out for them.
Yeah, and the moment Unica kind of walked into blank, that was a problem. Unica ulted late as well. And okay, the rocket didn't go through the wall, but still, no time to react. And the amount of particles as well just going on, the circle, the Venn diagram of chaos happening there. I certainly wouldn't have had the reflex just to dodge out the rocket or even press R in that situation.
And now the Hawks are in a great position where if Kanatsu wants to, he could just go bot lane, play with TP. There would be no response from V3. And they can look to just pull them apart and really destroy them all across the map. Not going to be the case for now, though, as the Gwen is well and truly posted up in that top side. The rest of Hawks really pressuring around the top side of the map as well. But I wouldn't want to give over that Ocean Drake to V3. Putting them onto Soul Point, it feels like giving them an unnecessary advantage.
Agreed. And because the Hawks gave up the first two dragons here, they really want to be the ones dealing with this. And we touched on the fact that Azir's poke is really good now that he has that Leandries, has the Void Staff as well. If you give up the Ocean, it actually negates a lot of that strength that current spellcaster Azir has, the poke Azir, and not the all-in auto attack Azir as well. So Hawks definitely setting up for this one. It's still a bit ways away, and for V3, they can kind of say, okay, we'll cede this dragon to you. We don't care. We want to take top side. That's okay for them. And if they can also, while they're doing that, get control over Baron, I think that's a worthwhile trade.
And Washidai is listening to you. Smacking down this top lane tower. Gonna grab the second one for the V3 in this game. And Blank just soloing up the Drake. Takes that away nice and easy. Means that we're a bit less likely to see that soul coming through. I don't think Hawks are going to be complaining about that one too much. They're already in a pretty good position. V3, though, it's a win condition slipping away.
Yeah, for the Hawks, it's more about denying it, right? If they get Soul, they'll be very happy, but I'll also be very depressed because the game would have run
something would have gone wrong if the Hawks end up picking up a Soul in this game.
Agreed. So yeah, for them, it's more just denying it away from the side of V3. Now, Hetzel did a great job as well, clearing out the Baron area. But V3, after clearing out the top side, have decided we're not playing to the top side. I really don't know why they're looking at the dragon area whatsoever. There is nothing there for you. Send Washidai down, maybe. Just one person to split push on that bot side, and the rest of you should be pressuring that top side. There is a pushing wave top as well that will be pushing against V3 shortly, because Dasher's up there proving that one. And in the mid wave, what are you doing? You can't push into this Jinx right now unless you get a pick of some sort. And with that cleanse, I just don't see the pick happening.
And this is the thing that has been perplexing me regarding V3 this whole split so far. Yes, you could talk about the player diff, but the way that they played the macro game in Academy was very exceptional. They utilized vision properly. They set up for fights very, very well. And maybe that was coming from Marble. Maybe something else just isn't clicking right now. But these hallmarks of V3 Academy aren't showing through onto the main roster, and it means that it's so difficult for them to play out games when they find themselves in situations like this, where a lot of the things that they're trying to do are being contested, and a lot of things that they're trying to do aren't ultimately beneficial. Marble forced a Gale Force away from Washide, who was going to all-in him under this tower in the mid lane, pops the Undying Rage, and then just spinning slashes in the wrong direction. Will be chased down by Blank now.
Oh no.
That's bad, man. That's not what you want to be doing on this Tryndamere.
Bad is an understatement, Middlecon, because now no one can match Kanatsu. The moment they send anybody to match Kanatsu, Hawks can just go for Baron. Kanatsu has a teleport here, and Washide was a big part of their sort of threat around the Baron pit as well. For now, though, Hawks, they're not risking the Baron here. They're leaving Kanatsu split pushing, and they're looking to siege up. The Nyx wave has just arrived.
I love these Azir, man. They just offer you so much free pressure in the mid lane. Feels a little bit unnecessary. Blank going forward onto Hetel. Pops into that stopwatch as the stun comes through, but will not connect onto anyone. Into the back line goes Dasher! And that's why he's the carry for the Hawks. Yes, he'll pay with his life, but he gives 2 over for his team.
And the Liandry's burn from Dasher actually picks up Hetel on the back end. So that is a 1 for 3 there. They don't quite get the turret though. And while I applaud getting kills, that's nice. What does it really net you, right? You're not getting the Baron. We get to re-watch this as well. And really, there's nothing to say here. It's just the Hawks finally deciding to pull the trigger. It's actually kind of risky to go under the turret like that. But if you can do this into the turret, why don't you just go for a Baron dance and look to do it at the Baron? Then you don't have to risk losing Dasher. You don't have to risk losing Blank.
Because it means you can make stylish plays like that, RMC.
Fair.
That's going in a montage somewhere. Once we get a little bit later into the split, I'm sure we'll call back to that one a couple of times. And Stasher being sort of the big playmaker for his team, it's kind of what he does, but ultimately he's got a team around him this game, and I think that's the most important thing. Kidatsu looking very strong. Blank has been excellent, and Marble 2-0 and 3 items on the Jinx, a scary carry coming out of the bot lane.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the success we're seeing them have right now in the mid game is coming from the fact that they're not being pushed. The question mark around Hawks this split so far has been their decision making. And if you're not rushing them, if you're not really forcing them to make decisions, they look perfectly fine, as we're seeing right now. V3 though, you said it in the pre-show, and I think it was a bit of a joke saying that V3 don't have to worry about the mid game because they've never gotten there. But it's kind of looking that way right now. The early game looked decisive. They got those early ganks and those early kills, and then now we're kind of hitting the mid game point, and what happened to all that decisiveness? They've just kind of been sitting back and letting the game happen to them.
And that's not a good place to be in. That's not letting the game happen. A double stun, hook landing onto Reiner. Good chip damage, good poke damage onto the Hawks members, but it's not going to result in anything. The Jinx can just heal all of that back up. Drake spawning in 15 seconds, and once again, V3 find themselves on the wrong side of the map to contest this.
I don't know if there is a right side of the map for V3 right now. Like with the way they've been playing, it just feels like they're not ever at the objectives. And last time I could excuse it if you're setting up for Baron and taking a turret. But this time, what? Are you rushing Baron? Because if you're not, you're just behind right now on pretty much anything. You're not getting anything out of this group up here. And Blank could have soloed it. Dasher came over to help a little bit as well. And the entire rest of the time, Marble just pushing them off the Baron here. The Hawks with a 5k gold lead. I think the Hawks should be looking to begin the Baron dance at this point. Get the vision down, draw out V3 here. TP from Kanatsu is still up, was never actually used with all that split pushing. So just send Kanatsu down there and go back to what has worked for you so far.
And we're beginning to see that, that was very cheeky there, Dasher. Understands exactly the potential risks of de-warding Baron as a solo laner. It's pretty close to that Rabadon's death cap, and we're really seeing massive itemization spikes come on for multiple members of the Hawks. Now, we already talked about 3 items on Marble. Well, we've got 3 items on Kanatsu as well, opting towards that Randuin's Omen, which I just love here. You know that it's going to be Washidai and Jesco doing the damage, and with this item, they don't.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to that Warden's Mill we saw picked up first, right? And I'm like, okay, so they held it till now. I actually really like the build path because I think it specifically into Tryndamere, it does a lot. Oh my goodness, they just forced out the Stormbringer just like that off of Unica. What?
And they're getting stuff for free, or very cheap at least. Like, if you're investing a Zap for an ult, do you know what? That's worth it in my opinion. Once again, the Hawks posting up in this mid lane. Still yet to take down this tower, the final outer tower, but I'm sure with only Hettel and Washidai to defend it, it's going to fall in just a moment's time.
Yeah.
And now we do need to see Hawks translate, because we're getting towards 30 minutes and there hasn't really been an earnest attempt at starting that Baron. Yeah, they've been playing their time. Yeah, they've been biding their time, but at some point you do just need to win the game.
Yeah. Oh, the Death Bush? Are they? Oh, okay. Got spotted. Never mind.
Unica, though, also lamped himself away. Again, like Hawks, it just doesn't feel like they've got that killer instinct at the moment.
I wonder if this is because they're scared. Like, they've had so many bad games that they're just afraid to go for it. But now they've finally gone for it. Keep in mind, with the control ward in the pit, that blue trinket ward is not showing anything. And Dasher trying to hold the choke point here. Baron's already half gone.
Yeah, they've got so much DPS that the Zir doesn't even need to be in there. He will join the fray now as the Baron is taken down. A TP comes through from Eugeo and gets the stun onto two people, but it's so difficult for VT to actually find access into this fight. Washidai is on one side of this wall as Hawks are all being corralled towards this top side. The Baron recalls not going to come through just yet as the mocking shout is thrown up. Eugeo looking for something over the wall as Washidai is continuing to go forward. V3 are teasing the engage, but they're just not going for it.
Because they can't middle caught. They don't have attack. Unica burnt the Stormbringer earlier and it's still not back off cooldown. So Washidai should be the one initiating, but he's not confident he'll survive. He's afraid of the CC that can come out as well. And unfortunately for V3, they've just kind of sat by and watched as Baron goes to the Hawks. And before, the Hawks were struggling. They take the inner turrets, but that's about as far as they can go. The lane gets too long after that and they weren't confident. But now with Baron buff, with an 8 or 7,500 gold lead here, all Hawks need to do is just group up and shove a lane together here, and they should be able to take it. V3 don't have a good way to match the poke and the range that the Hawks have.
Dasher, that play that you made under tier 2 tower, let's have that again, buddy, under an in tower. That's all I want to see. Some killer instincts, some actually pushing this advantage, because I think this game probably shouldn't still be happening considering the lead that the Hawks have got for themselves. But do you know what? They're keeping it nice and calm. They're trying to keep it nice and collected. You can't fault a team that's 0-6 for wanting to secure their first win in as clean a fashion as possible. But it does give V3 a bit more time, a couple of angles to move into this play. Dresscode has now got 3 items on the Aphelios, but Kinatsu just slight pushing for free.
Yeah, and look at that turret already getting so low here. The siege cannon will take it down at the rate they're going. V3 need to respond to this here. Washidai looking for a flank.
Yeah, looking for a flank.
Looking for a flank.
It's not going to find it though. Just pulls back into the mid lane to answer Blank, and Unica has already been taken to 30% HP. It's so difficult for this Volibear to engage at this point, and with no tower to defend them, Hawks can just push further forward. Inhib is going to be the focus now, and V3, you need to pull the trigger at some point. Unica jumps out onto all fours and doesn't go for it.
Yeah, because Unica's half dead. You need to reset and heal up and then pull the trigger, but you hesitated. You tried to pull the trigger on a half-cocked gun, and now you lose the inhibitor for free. They're just going to reset, go for mid once again, and it's B3, like you said, just pull the trigger one way or another. Washidai, Unica, I don't care who, but look for a pick.
B3, you do not want to lose this game. You do not want to go 0-7. Hawks will relent with the pressure now as the Baron buff is falling away, but they could just retreat back to this Ocean Drake, and RMC, Hawks are going to be on soul point.
Middlecott, there's a timer. I've got 5 minutes before I get very depressed watching this game. I mean, I said it. If Hawks get so, I'm going to be very depressed. And it's looking like it here. They had a bit of time left on the Baron buff. They could have tried to break that mid inhibitor turret, but it's important they take the bot side inhib, because now HAWKS, even without the Baron buff, can still siege up the mid lane, can still siege up the top lane. They can go 4-1, and they'll effectively have an additional force pushing the bot side. Washide's lack of teleport has been coming back to bite V3, and with an inhibitor down, if the split push gets executed properly, it's definitely going to hurt them.
It will do. You're V3 right now, RMC. And you're looking at the state of this game. 8,000 gold behind, down a soul point, missed out on a Baron as well. Who are you looking for to carry? Who do you think can make this big play? And who does the big play need to be on if you want to stay in this game? As Unica is being jumped onto once again. Will Lantern himself away as Kanatsu is being soloed out by Washide on the other side. Xin Zhao continuing to go forward and just stancing up to V3, forcing them out of their own jungle.
Well, I'll tell you who not to engage on for V3, and that is Blank. He's tanky enough that he's not going to go down. I think it's got to be Washide at this point, unfortunately. I think Ayugo's sort of time has passed, and now it's very difficult to look for the pick. And Washide needs to find a flank onto Marble. If you kill Marble, if you kill Dasher, there's a chance they're engaging on Blank.
Yeah, Moonlight Vigil already popped. The Crescent Guard isn't available, but he's just able to walk himself away.
Okay,
Washide going into the backline with no Fury, gets bopped out, and the Exhausted on him as well. The Trinity is not going to do any damage, as here comes Kanatsu, throwing the needles into multiple members of the three, forcing those health bars so low, and more pressure for Sengok, more pressure for the Hawks, more towers taken, more inhibs taken. V3, they needed to pull the trigger for the last 15 minutes of this damn game, but they just haven't done it, and now they're going to be falling down to a triple inhib state. Hettel running forward, looking for a hook, but doesn't find it. Oh, this is just sad to see from V3, honestly.
For V3, you have a choice to make at this point. And the choice is, are you going to just slowly get choked out, or are you going to go out in a blaze of glory? And if you want to go in a blaze of glory, you need to just shove out the side lanes and then force the fight. That is literally your only option left. Don't put this fight because the side waves are about to push in, but just reset a little bit and go for this. If you wait any longer, Baron's coming up in 20 seconds as well. And if you try and dance the tango at the Baron, you're going to lose out because supers are pushing in. And if you don't, and you wait for the HAWKS to pick up Baron, you have no chance of winning a fight. So V3, very, very tight timeline. Shove, 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 shove. Go to Baron, force the fight ASAP.
I'm scared with that teleport, though, that Dasher sees them move towards the Baron and just goes into the base and ends the game. You can do that on this, as it does a hell of a lot of damage to towers.
True.
The Hawks are setting up for this Baron. Kanatu jumping over the wall, taking away that blast cone. We've already seen one Baron steal today, and if V3 were to get one, it would buy them a lot of time. Unica's not going to be able to do it, though, as he's taken out right at the onset of the fight. Washidai diving onto the backline and doesn't have time to ult either. Liliana will be the sacrifice in the front liners. That's so much damage onto Dresco. Blank diving forward. The cleanse used, and maybe the Xin Zhao has overextended the stopwatch to buy a little bit of time, and that means that the rest of Hawks are able to move up, are able to defend him, are able to push forward. Ayujo on no mana will have to return to the fountain. Dress code low on HP as well. V3 have to make their final stand here.
The final stand is already done. Middle Cot, it was when they tried to go for that fight, when the top and jungle both did not get their ults. This is just cleanup for the HAWKS here, and congratulations to the HAWKS. It took 37 minutes, just shy of 37 minutes, but I'll give them this much. I did not end the game depressed.
You did not end the game depressed. Still a minute until that final Drake was scoring. That game was a little bit longer than I feel like it should have been, but ultimately... HAWKS coming out, possibly expected victors with this win today. Still, a lot of problems for both of these teams, but I think one less for the HAWKS with that win.
Yeah, and one more for V3 there. But Middlecott, before we go any further, we should probably let Maswan rejoin us. He's probably frothing at the mouth after watching that particular series, ready to tell us, I told you so.
yeah. I think I told you so is probably the right words. Like RMC was saying, we're going to head off for a couple of minutes, but do not go anywhere. A very handsome gentleman will be joining us after the break.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Mas One, Middle Court, RMC, gentlemen. We are in the worst timeline of the LJL universe because that match felt like nothing happened for about 14 minutes. We get a first blood, instantly traded back, and then almost nothing. Middle Court, how did it feel to cast the first 14 minutes of that game?
Honestly, bro, like after burning Core Sengoku the other week and now this, I'm strongly reconsidering my future on the LGLOU. Like,
okay, next time we get games like this, just tell me to do them instead, mate.
Yeah,
all right?
I don't want to do a third one of these, man.
I'll do Mr. President action for you.
Well, hold on one second. We say that, Middle Cop. I'm starting to think it's you and me because we cast the Burning Core Sengoku matchup, and that was like the only bad game I think that Sengoku and Burning Core have had. They are tied second right now in the league.
We're the problem.
We'll just blame Burning Core's draft. All right, we'll blame Burning Core's draft, and how can we blame this one? We'll blame V3's draft because let's start in pick and ban phase, gentlemen. What the F? Bird person's back, Azir. The Emperor himself is back in this game. And RMC, let's talk about build paths as well for this Azir because I was a bit confused for a period of time with that build path.
Okay, so Dasher on the Azir. Liandry's into Void Staff is the current Azir build path. Like we said, it's no longer about auto attacking anymore. It's really about using the Sand Soldiers to just poke people down. It's maximum burn. It's maximum zone control.
I'm hearing you, but why would you pick Azir?
Because there was nothing left, effectively, right?
Five mid lane bans, Lexi.
Yeah, and Dasher needed something that can carry. And if you pick the Syndra...
there we go. See, there were plenty of mid lane mages open. He just wanted to carry.
And he had to. My goodness, he had to that game because Marvel's Jinx... Marvel's Jinx didn't feel like a regular... Like, other Jinxes get excited. Marvel's Jinx didn't get excited. And granted, with the way the game went, I don't blame him for not getting excited, but it felt like, okay, you know what? I understand the build path. You built Lord Dominic's Regard because the only person you're intending to hit is Unica, and you're never going to hit the back line.
I mean... I was just okay. You know what? I had a point set up, but I want to move on because that's how I feel like about this game in general. Middle Court. Let's go on to around the 19-minute mark, and a huge 2v2 actually happened. This is the bot lane where they find that pull, the super mega death rocket, and Marvel actually has a great moment. Remember, he gets excited for once. He gets a kill on the board. His first kill of the game at 19 minutes. Oh, buddy, can you just talk me through that? That was the forced TP from Yu-Gi-Oh, that whole stuff.
Yeah. Well, apparently the R button on Washidai's keyboard is broken because this was the first of multiple times this game where he just wasn't ulting in fights. And we saw in the first game, the split, Ebby actually had problems with that as well. But he eventually found his R key and went on to hard carry this game. Washidai was trying to do that this time around, but he wasn't able to make it happen. And yeah, it kind of all stemmed from that 2v2 in the bot side where Unica walks in on blank, didn't really expect to find him there, and it just get blown up. And at that point, V3 stopped making proactive plays. It felt like that was the last time that V3 were like, yo, let's do something this game.
I think, I mean, definitely some of these players need to watch Dice, the mid laner of Burning Core, his take on Tryndamere, because he always has the R button and rarely misses it, rarely. So we'll have to see about that. I think you set up a beautiful point, though, which we're going to go into a bit more in depth, RMC. V3 Esports, after that 2v2 went away from them, felt like the wheels were starting to fall off. I mentioned at the very beginning as well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Blew his TP for naught in there. And that kind of set the stage for V3 Esports throwing the kitchen sink at even one kill for not much sometimes, all over the map after 20 minutes.
Yeah, it just really felt like V3 didn't know how to play out the mid game. It's not like they didn't have tools to make things happen. They just didn't seem to know how to use them, and so they just kind of ended up sitting around for the longest time. And perhaps that's a reflection of their average game time, right? The fact that V3 does have the shortest average game time. We alluded to it. And every time the game ends about 20 something minutes, and we were hitting about the 20 something minute mark, and it felt like, okay, at that point we are pretty close, but we don't know how to close this out. And for the Hawks too, I actually want to blame the Hawks harder for this, because V3 stopping, like, not knowing how to play it, fine. They're an academy team who's not had to deal with this before. But come on, Hawks, you guys have the longest average game time, and you still didn't know how to close out a game. You had, V3's got tools, but Hawks, you have tools, you have the lead, you have initiative and agency on the map, and they just refused to start the Baron. They just kept dancing around it. You get vision on it, and then you sit in a bush somewhere. It's like, why are you waiting for this? Just go do it. You know V3 don't know. Well, they don't have vision.
Well, RNC, let's actually move this game on just a little bit further on, because, I mean, while it was tilting as anything else to see it, finally the Hawks prevailed. They figured out to take an objective, ladies and gentlemen. I know they took multiple dragons, even though they didn't want to take the early ones. Another team that did that in a row, 2 games in a row today. Do we think it's a trend? No, because DFM's up, so it's probably not going to be a trend. Thank God.
Happen.
But let's talk about that Baron, because they eventually get a Baron middle core and RMC. And then they actually start pushing and utilizing it.
They start doing some things, and they get that bot lane in Hib pretty rapid, and are then able to sort of chain that around the map. But it took a little bit longer than I think any of us really wanted to see from them. Jinx is here.
No. The immortal words of as that Baron drops off, I will become very sad from RMC. If this game continues going on. It didn't hit that, did it, Middlecott?
No. Well, they ended the game before Ocean Soul happened. Good job. I'm very impressed with the way that you played League of Legends that game.
I wouldn't go as far as to say impressed. I wouldn't go quite that far. I would go as far as to say as I wasn't depressed. But what I was very anxious though at one point when on that Baron push, that felt like that was the final chance for V3 to punish. And Washide, I don't know what happened to him. You picked Tryndamere to play aggressive. You go balls to the wall with that champion. If you're not going balls to the wall, don't pick it. Because Washide, if you're playing scared, you're completely on the wrong champion. Go back to...
I believe our producer's telling us we've got some clips to see. So continue your point, please. Let's see some clips.
Excellent. What we got here?
Please. Let me see which clips we're going to bring up here, because...
Oh, this was Dasher in the mid lane. Oh, this was lovely. Yeah. This is just what he is as a player here.
And this was a defining moment of the game as well. Like, you kind of felt like beforehand, the 2v2 had already happened. They were finding picks all over the place. They were being overly aggressive. And RMC, you rightly called them out. That was a bit overreaching, kind of looking for things just for the sake of it.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, if that had been the turning point of the game, if that had been where Hawks go, we're going to play like this for the rest of the game, I'd be okay with that.
Sure.
But you do that, and then you kind of give up after that. I'm like, okay, you just picked the worst of both worlds, right? Like, you overextended, you were overzealous for that, and didn't get anything. They didn't even get the turret on that particular play. And then instead of doubling down and actually taking the turret, you then decide to go, and I don't even want to call it a Baron dance. It's like the wallflower at a dance. You stood by the Baron instead.
Well, gentlemen, that is going to be the end of this recap, because really, if we keep going any deeper, I think our heads might explode through the... it was a bit of a mess. But, gentlemen, it's been fantastic having you both on. Thank you so much for joining me, though replacing you both. No one could really replace you. Filling in for your souls and positions because I love having both of you on. It is going to be Temporal and Echo KO joining me just after this break, ladies and gentlemen. But we've got 2 more matches. Detonation Focus Me facing off against Burning Core next. Woo! I'm excited.
I'm also excited.